Welcome, everybody, to the Beloved Community Check-In. My name is Erica Beverett. I am actually checking in from Camden, New Jersey this evening. Today, we are so excited to have our friend, our partner in all the work that we're doing in environmental justice, Braithwaite, that's going to be joining us today. She's going to be talking a little bit about the tea on toxic beauty, talking about some of the toxic chemicals that are in our beauty products. And so with that, we do have a couple of announcements before we begin. Of course, PEP's our mission is proactive advocacy based on the interests of parents and community leaders. And so 3 of our pillars that we are concentrating on right now is environmental justice, which you've been seeing the series of environmental justice pieces that we've been speaking on and the work that we've been doing. And then also we have mental health and education. So from our mental health pillar, we are proud to have upcoming this Friday, Smiling Through Depression, Ignoring Self-Care. We have a fantastic facilitator. Her name is Amin Proctor. She's going to be leading the conversation and this discussion. There are going to be light refreshments, some great self-care tips, community empowerment, and we're definitely aiming to disrupt the mental health stigma within our community. It's going to be from 5:30 to 7:30, and it's going to be held at the SWIA office. If you guys are familiar, those are our friends as well. It's going to be held at 1067 Bergen Street in Newark, New Jersey. And then the next item that we have up to share with you all is, of course, PEP is in partnership with Inspire Sports Camp. We're excited that this is our 2nd annual Inspire Sports Camp that we're hosting. We have an amazing group of kids that usually come through, parents. We love to connect with you. And they get to have a great time at a sleepaway camp for 5 days, actually 5 nights and 6 days. And they have a really great time. We have 2 terms going out. I think so far we have about 3 buses, which is pretty much a good 60 kids or more that will be busing out between July 6th and July 11th, and then again on July 13th through July 18th. The term 4 that you see highlighted on the flyer, that is leaving out of Orange City Hall, and that is sponsored by People Over Politics. And then we have our upcoming event that's called Voices United. We are going to be having a barbecue and fun in the park at Weekway Park in Newark on the Route 22 side. So don't get lost. It's like a quick turn as soon as you get inside, come off of the block, and just join us. We're going to have a lot of fun, bouncy houses, games, food raffles, backpack and school supply registration. We'll have all of our usual suspects and partners in crime that are going to be there. And we're going to have a really great time. Our focus is going to be on environmental justice and mental health and education, of course. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there because I would love to bring to the floor or up to the screen is Miss Arlene, so she can just talk a little bit about what we've been up to. We've been up to a lot, right?
Absolutely, nonstop. Okay, so we've been focusing on environmental justice, the Clean Ports for Newark's Future campaign that has been going wonderfully well. We've been involved in port committee meetings. the
Mm.
Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission meetings.
Oh, that's coming up tomorrow, right? That's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely. Actually, it
Mhm.
was earlier today, so it's usually on a Thursday once a month.
Mm.
Very pertinent information concerning environmental justice. They have sewage backed up in Jersey City, Bayonne, and Newark. And we
Mhm.
all know that Newark is the largest city in the state of New Jersey. We're trying to get a handle on exactly when they think that this situation will be mitigated for all three cities. So as of right now, they do not have a date when, but they do know that these three cities are impacted and they're working, getting their resources and strategizing on how they're going to resolve this matter. We've been engaging the community to campaign, canvass, and have them sign the petition. Right now, we have almost 1,100 petitions signed. Our goal right now is 1,500, but as you know, once you reach the goal, we're going to raise the bar, right? So it's
Yeah.
like we're not satisfied with 1,500. So I can't wait till we reach that number and see what the new number will be. But the community has been pretty much supportive. For the most part, which is why we have the petitions that we have signed so far. But we would like for you all to go right ahead and scan this petition and scan the QR code and sign the petition and get in on the action. You'll be surprised at what this is going to turn out for you in the future. Access to green jobs. You'll be a part of the group of people who advocated for clean air and better health for our environments in the city of Newark, not just Newark, Jersey City, Bayonne, and the surrounding cities that have been impacted by the trucks by the Port Newark and the trucking industry and truck movement between these cities. And now we'll have X come on and let us know what she's all about. Let us know what these hair products are about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank y'all. This is my first time on the PP live stream, so I'm very, very excited to open this up to y'all's community. I've been working with Erica and PEP for about a year now, and I'm just
Mhm.
really grateful for the work that y'all do at PEP, the EJ, the robustness of mental health. So really glad that I can be here. So
Glad
hey.
to have you.
Thank you. So I guess I can just start. Do y'all mind if I start with like an overview of who I am, where I'm from? Does that
Let's
sound
go.
That's
Yeah, let's
fine. Go right ahead.
awesome? So my name is X. Nice to meet y'all. I am an environmental justice organizer for Clean Water Action, and I'm born and raised in Newark. My academic background that kind of led me here is justice and policy studies. I've been an organizer since I was about 14, and I started with the Newark Students Union. And I really got into this profession because I had a passion for people, passion for justice, and really just wanting to see changes in how our communities are supported in the larger scheme of things. So I was a Bonner Scholar, so I did a whole bunch of different types of services. For my college scholarship, I was an urban debate league coach. I worked with immigrant and refugee students as a tutor. So I've done a lot of work in terms of community background, but environmental justice specifically is something that I began in 2023. Right after college, I began my job with Clean Water Action as their lead EJ organizer, and environmental justice from the perspective of my personal and work goals is really about getting the folks who are most impacted by pollution, air pollution, and really environmental stressors to be at the forefront of the conversation on how we get better conditions. And my day to day looks like working with organizations like PEP to co sponsor events, getting information out there, webinars, really any type of community engagement strategies to make sure that we're not only educated on these issues, but that we all feel like we have a personal stake. Because it's not something, that's abstract. We're not talking about climate change out there. We're talking about our kids, our children getting asthma at elevated rates. We're talking about heart disease, lung cancers disproportionately affecting our communities. And so that's why I love engaging with groups that don't necessarily focus on environmental justice, because this is an overall intersectional issue. And that's what I love about what I do. So that is me. And how I got here today is the Tea on Toxic Beauty project I'm actually working on. It was a campaign that started in about October, just based off of what I've been learning about toxins in personal care products. So
Mm.
environmental justice, yeah, it's definitely, I feel like, a public health issue as well. So looking at the total person and all of our exposures and interactions with our environment, we can see that there's some correlation between the products that we use and the way our bodies respond to them. And specifically for women of color, Black women, we are often disproportionately given products that have a lot of toxic chemicals in them. So just off the top of my head, you can think of skin lighteners, you can think of hair relaxers, or some of the most dangerous products on the market, actually. And a lot of good groups coming out of California with Black Women for Wellness, Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. And then in New York, we have We Act for Environmental Justice. They've been really good at getting the word out and also getting legislation passed. So we really wanted to bring it to the New Jersey platform landscape. Honestly, as a community member, I haven't heard what beauty justice was before this. And it's really kind of like a hidden or unsung issue, because we see the effects, but we don't necessarily know and know how to take actions when it comes to the cause of some of these issues. Yeah.
So question. You mentioned like some other. So is lotion a part of that list of toxic chemicals?
Well, it can be. That's the problem. And I'm about to share my screen to start my presentation about everything, but yes, the problem is there's very little regulation when it comes to the cosmetic industry. So
Okay.
really the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they have no stake in cosmetics, right? You can put something, slap a label on it, say it's organic, say anything about it, that it grows hair, makes your skin shiny, but that doesn't necessarily mean the ingredients label matches what the product says it's going to do. So you
Got
can
it.
think about lotions, hair creams, gels, all of them, without doing your research, they have the potential to have really bad chemicals in them.
Okay. And I yes, I can see why this is what do you call this a health community health problem,
Yes.
because I don't read labels when I buy. Not, now I have sensitive skin, so if I buy something and it doesn't work for me, I'll stick to what I know. But
Mm,
still, in all, I can't tell you what's in it.
yeah.
So we're so looking forward to hear your presentation.
Yeah, so with that, we can definitely get right into it, and hopefully, you can learn a little bit more about
Yes.
product safety and even like simple ways, because it's inherently, honestly, confusing on purpose. They put that little label at the bottom. They put stars and asterisks about, hey, don't use this when, but people really aren't, and they shouldn't have to pay extra attention to that when they're just shopping for simple products. So
Even soaps, right? Because now here's why I say, because my face, I have sensitive skin as far as my face is concerned. So the
mhm,
lotion I may use for the rest of my body, I cannot use on my face.
exactly.
On my face, I have to use like the bio oil or shea butter. If not, I'm going to break out into a rash. I'll get itchy, and I just don't know what it is that's causing that.
Yeah.
Unless I go to a dermatologist. But yeah. looking.
Right. And those natural products are way better anyway. I
Mhm.
actually just had an event called the Tea on Body Pollution with the
Okay.
Southward Environmental Alliance. Yeah. And
Mhm.
we at the end we made our own products. So we made body butters with
Mm.
just shea butter or coconut oil. You can use either base, and then an essential oil. Because
Okay.
honestly, just making it yourself not only can save money, but it can also save the hassle of like trying to figure out what's in your product. So that's
Yes.
definitely something that's recommended over just buying something that says, oh, clear skin, etc. Stick
Mhm.
to what we know.
Absolutely. So you give workshops teaching how to make. Okay, I'm looking forward to your next workshop.
Yeah, I'm trying to do different community engagement strategies. Hopefully, this is unofficial, but our next event will be a sister circle talking
Okay.
about standards, talking about how oftentimes women of color feel pressure to use certain products and don't necessarily have the background to see what's in these products. So, yeah, that'll be fingers crossed our next event, and that'll be towards the end of May.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
So,
tea on toxic beauty. So I wanted to go over what exactly beauty justice is. Sometimes it's a very like new term or like at least nuanced term. It hasn't been kind of a thing since maybe the early 2000s when people really started putting two and two together when it comes to products like hair relaxers having formaldehyde, etc. And it
Mm.
something that is actually affecting people's health. Or if you guys remember the Johnson and Johnson case, where talc powder was found to cause different type of reproductive issues. There was a whole lawsuit. So
yes.
right, really towards the early 2000s, it started to come up that like some products just aren't safe for human use. But the problem is they're still on the market even today. So, beauty justice is a term specifically coined by Ami Zoda. She is a professor at Columbia University, and she did one of the first studies of personal care product usage and how women of color like have certain amounts of chemicals in their bodies. So it's kind of a twofold definition. One, it incorporates social factors, so looking at Eurocentric beauty standards, preferences for lighter skin or straighter hair that can influence product usage, but also the potential for impacts due to environmental stressors that might be co occurring. So, if last week, for example, in my body pollution workshop, we were talking about how pollution through your products adds up in your body, but also how it adds up in your environment. And this is just one campaign I do, but as an environmental justice organizer, what I really look into is air quality rates, rates of water quality, so lead in the water, etc. And the
Mhm.
problem with personal care products is a lot of this stuff isn't recyclable, and a lot of it ends up in landfills, which are usually in communities like Newark. So, for example, I live in the Ironbound right now, and we have an incinerator, we have multiple power plants, etc. So, you're thinking about this in the way that one, you're using it every day consistently, and when you throw it away, it's literally ending up back in your air. So that was really interesting and eye-opening in an example of how co-occurring exposures can increase your risk of certain health disorders.
So that answers the question because I wanted to know how does toxic beauty and environmental justice align? And that was one of my questions. So you just answered it. I would have never thought of that. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Because if you think about it, like everything gets sent to landfills, and we're using products. We're constantly either using half of them and throwing it away, or using things that aren't recyclable. So
Mm,
it definitely is that, and not even that. If you really look into it, and even the places that they're manufactured, if these are toxic products, the places they're being made are toxic places.
Yes.
So
mm,
just a little hint slash fun, not so fun fact
Mm.
fragrance is a huge ingredient in a lot of products. And fragrance, if you see that at the bottom of your ingredients label, it
Mhm.
usually means like a range of chemicals. It could be over 10,000 chemicals. And the
Mm.
reason why they don't have to like say it's this, that, and this is because of a loophole in the law that calls fragrances a trade secret. So you don't necessarily have to disclose that. But regardless, fragrances are made someplace and they're actually made in Newark. There's this, I think the facility is called like Darling Industry or something. And it's
Mhm.
at the very tip of the Ironbound where all the industry really is, right next to Delaney Hall, actually.
Yeah.
And the way fragrance is made, you literally are burning animal carcasses. That's kind of the basis of it.
Oh,
Under,
that's
unbelievable.
gross.
Yeah. No, no, no. It is really
Wow.
gross. And I don't know if y'all have heard about the protests over Delaney Hall. I'm sure it's getting a lot more attention now. But I went to a couple of the protests, and Delaney Hall is
Mhm.
across the street from that place. It
Yes.
stunk like
It
animal carcass
smells.
the whole time. The
I
whole
never. So is that the reason for the smell?
Yeah, yeah, one
It's
of.
because let me tell you, I used to facilitate my program at Delaney Hall a couple of years back, and
Mm,
the smell would reek through the building. And we're not
Mhm.
outside, windows are closed, doors are closed, and it seeps through the walls, and it's
right.
so pungent. I could just never understand. Wow.
Yeah,
And
I
they
know
don't
exactly
deal
what
with
you're
that for
talking about.
years.
It's
Interesting.
most likely the facility across the street. Now, there's a lot of sources of smells, pollution in the Ironbound, but I can say from my personal experience, whatever y'all are smelling at Delaney is probably that one facility, honestly.
Wow.
So very interesting. But back to beauty justice.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like I said, it incorporates social factors, but it also is a theory that recognizes that women of color are overexposed and underprotected in the context of the beauty products that they use. So, Black women specifically, we are the highest consumers of most hair products and beauty products, and we spend the most, more than any other demographic, on these products. Yet, disproportionately, the ingredients are made out of harmful chemicals that are oftentimes in our products and not those of other demographics, specifically white women. And this is a shortened version of my presentation, so that's why I'm just like throwing facts in there. I don't know what exactly I'll be able to cover like through the slides. Actually, I think the next slide is going to cover it, but you can literally see the rates between products and the amount of chemicals that are in them
Mhm.
versus who these products are marketed to. So
Mm.
the problem is that we are also oftentimes over marketed products that don't talk about their impact. So like skin lighteners, an active ingredient in that is mercury. Mercury is a neurotoxin. We're not seeing that skin lighteners is on the back. It'll say, oh, this can cause your respiratory system to shut down. It can cause neurological issues. We're just seeing a light person on the cover. She's smiling, and it
Mhm.
really gives the fact. It really speaks to how Black women are often trying to chase this beauty standard that is just constantly being pushed to them. So
Yeah.
and that's why beauty justice also links intersectional oppression to the racialized practices of buying skin lighteners, straightening your hair, permanent dyes, etc. So with that, that's what beauty justice is. And a lot of people sometimes get it confused with like us trying to, or people advocating for better products trying to cast blame on the people who use that. So like if you use hair relaxers or skin lighteners, you're bad, you shouldn't be using that, you should be using more safer products. But we're not saying that at all. What we're saying is that the industries that are making these products, they need to take into account, one, the harmful impacts, and two, the predatory marketing. So it's not our fault that we're being constantly fed these products that aren't good for us. So we're trying to address them and move them towards accountability. So we're not saying you should buy things that are outside your comfort zone. You should buy things that are financially unsustainable for you, or like even locally unsustainable for you, because you can just look at all the systems, right? If you look at Newark, there's no Ulta, there's no clean beauty stores. We have beauty
Mm.
supply stores on every corner.
Yeah.
So if that's what's the only thing that is in your area, obviously you're not going to have the chance to get products that are better for you. Uh, yes. So does that make sense?
It
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. You brought me to thinking. When I was in freight forwarding, there's a company, IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances.
Yes.
Okay, so we had to. I was one of the broker for that company and Bayer Crop Science. Have you ever heard of Bayer? Like the medicine, and then they have like medicine for animals.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the crop science aspect of these companies, when they were done making their products, the waste would have to go on a IE, which was an immediate export, or an T&E, or an IT, which was an immediate transport. But I never thought of these products being negative or not healthy for us.
Mm.
However, for them to handle these products, it has to go on the rail immediately from place to place to place until it is exposed. And
Mm.
so listening to you brought me back to that, as in to say, but these companies do know the health risks of these products. If it has to be handled in the way it is to be handled, they have
Mhm.
to know the health risks, of what it can cause us.
Yeah.
Or are they thinking about that?
I just want to take a brief moment to just shout out all the people that have joined us. And they've been saying hello and they're happy to be here. So I know Almonds, thank you for joining us this evening. And Carla,
I see
hi
Elise.
Carla,
Hi, Carla.
joining as well. We see you. And let's see who else. I know I saw Miss Elise on here. She's definitely commenting. She said that she just uses I guess cocoa butter and water, so
Mm.
that's good. I love
Yeah.
cocoa butter,
Yeah,
um,
and shea
and
butter.
yeah, or shea butter.
Mhm.
And for Miss Elise, she says she didn't like perfume. Her nose is very sensitive.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. And then
Yeah.
on the topic of the factories, Carla said she used to work near Jimmy Dean factory, and it
Wow.
said I treated some of the employees. I never ate sausage again. Oh man, yeah. When you think about even just industries altogether, like they are just all the way wrong.
Wow.
um, and when you think, I heard you talking about the toxins that are being put in um, in the beauty products, but then we also have to take a look at it at the shipping of the products, right? Just like you just touched on,
Hmm.
it's coming and it's being transported, all across, our state, our world. It's making us sick. So yeah, like it's not only putting it on our body, but it's just the whole industry itself is just toxic.
Yeah, just circulating in the environment, they're out here. So yeah, and that's the problem. The industries, they, like I said, it's very little regulation when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the cosmetic industry. The food industry, FDA, they have a little bit more restrictions, but there's nothing prompting them to care about the health effects because there's
Mm.
no repercussions. They don't get in trouble if, you know, uh, 500 people out of 5,000 get develop a skin rash. They don't get in trouble until really attention is brought to the issue from the consumer standpoint. So like going back to Johnson and Johnson, they weren't like, oh, this is causing cancer, let's change it. No, a whole bunch of women came out with their stories. They hired lawyers. It was a long case for them to actually take accountability for their products being toxic, even though anybody who's making this knows the impacts of talc, the impacts of formaldehyde in products. So
Mm.
that really is the issue. And yeah,
Do you
so
do
mhm.
you think for your next, when we have you back, we can ask anyone who was on live, who have maybe had cancer or had some other effect, if we can have them on the show with you to just give their experience, so our immediate community can see that. here's why I asked that, right? You were privy to this experience, so you've seen the process where these women have given their stories and so on and so forth. A lot of us, because I've never seen the process, so this is my first time hearing it, and I know a lot of us in our communities haven't seen the process, and of course they know they're not alone, but it's good to see that there's a movement going on and there's verbiage around their experience, and have them come out and tell their experience as well, and get more people in the urban communities a
Mhm.
part of that conversation. I would like to see something like that happen.
Yeah, no, I would love that because people have stories. They do, like, if even if it's not them, it's their grandma, it's their, relative. They have stories, and it's really about coming together and connecting the dots as a community because you see the breast cancer rates in places like Newark, but we don't really look into that. Oh, I'm a little bit upset this is a shorter version because there's a lot of interesting information, especially about the diseases that women of color get. So for example, breast cancer, only about 10% of it can be attributed to your genetics. So the rest is completely like controlled by your environment. If you live next to pollution, the type of lifestyle you have, or the products that you use, that those are all major factors when it comes to developing breast cancer, which is one of the leading cause of death for Black women. So I would love
So
that. Mhm.
I have a few questions, and if any of you listening have questions, please send them. So, in regards to what you said, a question I have is: do you think these chemicals trigger cases of fibroids and endometriosis
Endometriosis.
in women of color?
Oh, for sure. For
Okay.
sure. For sure. And so give me 1 second. I think it'll be here. Yep. Yeah. And I'm going to explain exactly how that happens. So these chemicals, they're not just general, they're a group of chemicals that are known to have specific health concerns. And those chemicals affect your hormonal system, and that's how you develop it. So it's not like random. It's like chemical A is identified as an endocrine disruptor. That's the official term. And
Mhm.
endocrine disruptors will disrupt specific systems in your body. So yeah, for sure. Um, mhm.
What about psoriasis, eczema? What's the other one? Forgive me if I mispronounce it. Seborrheic matitis. That's the condition where I see women use a tool. It looks like a comb, but it's very fine toothed, and they scrape, and you would think it's dandruff, but it is actually like skin raising up, and sometimes they're bleeding, their head is bleeding, and sometimes it start from like the ear area. I've watched them do this, and I just wanted to know how does this come about. So does these products cause that, or
Yeah,
can it cause that?
for
Okay.
sure, for sure, they can. Honestly, the problem is these chemicals are linked to a range of health impacts, and it's very hard to identify, especially if this is not even something that you could be to bring up to your doctor or whenever you're facing these problems. Fibroids, uterine cancer, huge link. But also when you get down to like the skin reactions, etc., they are also linked. So yeah, it's the whole nine when it comes to these products. Oh yeah, and I was gonna say specifically to speak to the scalp issues in women of color. There was actually a consumer report that came out a couple months ago that talked about hair relaxer, not hair relaxers, braiding hair and the amounts of chemicals in them. Braiding hair, it's constantly next to your scalp, you're constantly touching it, etc., and that also contains toxic chemicals. So just even the protective hairstyles you might be using can lead to certain issues like that. And I'm going to try to put the consumer report in the chat.
I'm not surprised because years back I forgot what kind of hairstyle I had, but it was a lot of hair in my face, and I broke out because it
Mhm.
was leaning in on my face, and it was braiding hair, and I thought that was kind of strange, but
Right.
yeah. So it makes sense. Another question I had, I don't know if this is going too deep, but I just said, let me ask and put that out there to see. And so my question, this question is, can these products negatively impact unborn babies, like pregnant women with
Oh, yes.
children? And okay,
Yes, and hopefully I'll be talking about that later on as well because that's super, super important. Honestly, the products that women are using before they get pregnant and even specifically while they're pregnant can affect babies. And the problem as well is that these chemicals are even in products marketed for children. So baby soaps, shampoos, etc. They can have some of the chemicals that are the problem even for adults. And what's crazy about that is from birth to, from birth and throughout adolescence, etc., there are critical stages of development.
right.
When babies are first born, or specifically for women specifically, these products can cause earlier puberty. So it really does affect like people at all stages of life. But
Mhm.
those critical windows when you're like in the uterus, when you're developing hormones at a faster rate, that's when it really is affected. So kids are definitely like they're a vulnerable population when it comes to this stuff.
Wow,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. So just
So
for some,
Elise, what Elise says, before any of the hair need to be treated with vinegar, wash before using.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That can definitely help. And just for some context, because sometimes I get like comments about like how did this happen, who is allowing this. Well, the problem is, like I said, the U.S. is not that strong when it comes to cosmetic safety. There are over 40 other countries that have stronger laws, so banning specific chemicals than us. And the European Union, they actually banned over 2,400 chemicals from cosmetics, and the US only bans 11 of them.
So
So,
I got a question.
mhm.
What government office would be in charge of that? Because food and drug usually just deal with food, chemicals in food, or drugs. So
Yes.
would we put that under the food and drug umbrella?
No.
No.
What we want to do is definitely make it as closely related to that industry as possible because it's still something you're consuming and it's affecting you every day. I
Okay.
don't know what specific industry we can point to in the government, but I do know that chemical restrictions they aren't closely like regulated. The first and only cosmetic law was actually passed in 1938, and it was only updated in 2022, which is the Modernization of Chemicals Act, or MOCRA. And even that act doesn't give like the full protections that consumers need or that we need as people to keep ourselves safe and informed about products that might be harmful. So, for example, I don't know all the ins and outs of MOCRA, but now companies have to disclose to the FDA. So I think, yeah, as it
Okay.
gets more regulated, it'll probably
Mhm.
go towards the FDA. They have to disclose to the FDA like any acute impact. So, like you were saying,
Mhm.
skin rashes breaking out, they have to report that if they hear that from consumers, but
Mhm.
they don't have to put out a public report about it. They can just go straight to the government and be like, "Hey, this is happening," but they don't have to disclose it to like everybody who could be using this product. So
Mhm.
that's the problem.
It's interesting how this industry is regulated as far as hazmat is concerned, right?
Mhm.
Because, from my experience in, again, freight forwarding, these like IFF, it was regulated where you had to mark things for hazardous hazmat safety,
Yeah.
and truckers needed to know where to place these items on the truck so it
Mhm.
doesn't cause a convulsion while in transport. But they did not concern themselves with the health of the people that are using these products. This is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So some of them, it can range from allergic reactions to skin reactions and even increased risk of cancer. So this is the stuff they're not telling you about that industry. So yeah, and with that, it kind of becomes a buyer beware culture. So I made this little image at the side, and it's kind of just representative of how we go into stores and might look at products, and they all might look the same, but certain ones can have way more toxic chemicals than others, and
Mhm.
even some we don't know exactly what is in them. So it becomes buyer beware because now we are forced to do all our own research and make sure we're super prepared to get the best products for us when everything looks the same. Like just because it's on the shelf doesn't mean it's necessarily safe. Um,
So do you think that they should put, like with food, they have the non-GMO label, makes it easy. If you see that, you know that it's safe. Do you think
ex-
Sometimes.
that we should do?
mm, right. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's kind of what we do now. Like if you go to the store, you might see something that says 100% organic or this is a clean product, but there is
Okay.
no legal definition of clean. Now for non-GMO, GMO, vegan, etc., there must be a legal definition for that because that's the
Mhm.
FDA. But when it comes to cosmetic, you could say it's clean, and it might not necessarily be that. So for example, I fell into this. I use or I was trying to use this soap called Method. It's a new, like supposedly completely clean
I've
soap, and it
seen it.
has,
Yes.
yeah, it has really good reviews. But when
Yeah.
I looked back, it said it had fragrance in it. You want to avoid anything that has the ingredient fragrance because that is where most of the chemicals live that can harm you. So
Mm.
yeah, it said it was clean. They even have like a little website on the back so you can read their ingredients list. But at this point, because of what I know about it, like you can see how some industries can be really sneaky about what they choose to say about what's in their products, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and even soaps that we use to bathe, I can only use the Dial antibacterial soap, and it has to be like the clear. It can't be that fragrant. And
Right.
Dr. Bronner's distilled soap is excellent.
Mhm.
I'm
It is.
safe. Now I can use that on my face and the rest of my body. Whereas, some other soaps I cannot use on my face. So if I
Mhm.
can't use it on my face, then I don't want to use it at all. So the
Exactly.
soap, that I mentioned, I'm safe with, and it's, yeah.
Right, exactly. So you just have to look out, honestly, and try to keep. And you seem like you're doing a good job at this. Try to keep your product list as simple as possible. So apparently, women they use an average of 12 beauty or personal care products a day, and that's just the average baseline. But if you really start looking at everything you use, from your toothpaste to your face creams to your lotions, etc., it adds up. So when I first started this campaign, I think I used at least 10 products. And
Mm.
Wow.
yeah, and now I keep it down to maybe 5 or 4 if I'm feeling fancy. Um, so
I
yeah,
have to
keeping
count.
it simple is the best thing you can do. So like I said, Black women, and this is a study coming out of Harvard University. They did a test of certain products and found that about half of the products, hair products marketed towards Black women, contain endocrine disrupting chemicals. They mess with your hormones. And on the other hand, only 7% of those marketed towards white women contain those same chemicals that can affect your health. So that just shows, like, number wise, we are disproportionately exposed, right? Overexposed and underprotected when it comes to cosmetics.
Mm.
So, question in regards to that. Why do you think beauty products for women of color have disproportionate toxic chemicals? Do you
Mm.
Yeah,
think that, go ahead.
yeah. So I would just say it. Well, first, from the community organizer perspective, like I can't understand it. It blows my mind that like these chemicals are being marketed towards us. But I do think it has to do with the beauty standards and the amount of work it takes to reach that beauty standard. So, for
Got it.
example, like I said, skin lighteners, the active ingredient is a neurotoxin, but
Mhm.
people are still using skin lighteners for whatever reason. For
Mhm.
example, breast cancer, I mean, hair relaxers are related to breast cancer because they have such strong, potent ingredients. But what else are you going to have to get your hair bone straight? So these are just products that like white women are not using, are not being marketed. So they have a limited amount of that in the products that they use.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And I
black,
guess, and even if they straighten their hair, they don't need as stronger
exactly.
chemicals. So I get what you're saying. That's
Exactly.
okay.
I would say even a lot of this, all these things and these issues that we're having, and it's so disproportionately impacting Black women. It's intentional. Like I'm sorry, it's very intentional from
Yes.
where they house these chemical industries and factories within our own communities to what they're putting in our products, and trying to sell it and selling it to us as clean and free and good for us. And yeah, no, it's all intentional. They want to make us, the government wants to make us sick. The government, they don't care at the end of the day. They
I
say
Right.
agree with
they
that.
don't.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely a justice issue. Like it's
It
not a
is.
coincidence, like you said, Erica, that these products have the most harmful chemicals.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
haven't cared about Black women's health, and unless we bring light to this issue, it's just going to keep happening. That's why EJ is important because we're kind of the only ones that we know for a fact can and will care about each other in our health.
Mhm.
So if they don't want to regulate as
But
organized
what
we gotta organize.
Mhm. I
and
see
what Lavette say?
Lavette
True.
Howard. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Lavette Howard just said true. Oh, you want to read it? You're gonna read it?
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Erica. Go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You got it. You
Okay.
got it.
True. And as women of color, we have natural oils within our body. I didn't
Hmm.
think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just
So,
looking at the numbers, Black women spend about $7.5 billion a year on beauty products, and we purchase 9 times more hair care products than any other demographic. So
Mm.
we're already using it the most. And
I
then
would.
when we look into the specifics, so for example, a lot of Black women use permanent hair dye that increases your risk of breast cancer by
Mm.
44 to 75%. And then just hair straighteners alone increase the risk of breast cancer by 30%.
Yeah, that
wow.
is so high. That is
Yeah,
so high.
right.
The other part is during COVID, I was shopping for some shampoo for my daughter and myself, and I went to BJ's, and
Mm.
um they had the black products alternative. I'm gonna say the name. It starts with a P. I don't want
Mhm.
to. And ends with a teen.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they had a
Yeah.
black. So what they had a black version, and they have like the white version, I suppose. And then, so what I do notice is that the cost of our products are so much higher than
Wow.
the white products. And it
Yeah.
was the same. It was the same bottle. It was the same amount. Yet it just had our branding on it, right? Like beautiful pictures like these to, I guess, draw us in. And then it was like 10 times more expensive. So it's like you're selling us the stuff for way higher prices. We're getting pretty much black taxed at the end of the
Mhm.
day. And you're still making us sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Injustice like on all fronts, and that's what I don't understand because these products are more toxic for you, but they also cost more. Like that
Hmm.
that in itself is an injustice.
Absolutely.
It surely is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Um,
when it comes Oh, I'm sorry, Erica, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, Almond Proctor just made a statement, and she said, "Definitely, I made sure I only shampoo and condition through both pregnancies." Mm.
Mm, exactly.
That
So
that's good. Smart.
exactly. Yeah, it's really important, especially during pregnancy, to make sure you really are researching your products because not only does it affect your baby, obviously, but like your reproductive health and chances in the future too, because you're just really sensitive to hormones during that time. Um, So and then just going back to breast cancer really quickly, if we
Mm.
look at the numbers and the correlations, Black women have the highest mortality rate of breast cancer, higher than any other ethnic group, and specifically 42% higher than white women. So we're almost 50% more likely to die from it, even though we get it in similar ways.
And you
Mm.
did mention a percentage earlier that I think you said only 15% is contingent upon genetics.
10%,
Oh,
about 10%.
10%. And the rest is environment.
Exactly. And environment,
Okay,
just it literally means anything that you're doing in your actual life. So it's not just what's outside, but like I said,
absolutely.
the food you're eating, what you're
Absolutely.
putting on your body, etc.
Hmm.
So the problem with these products, and what specifically the issue is that they contain, so hair relaxers, etc., contain endocrine disrupting chemicals. And what they are, they're just chemicals that mimic our hormones, and so they interfere with our hormones. So when you're using something constantly that has an EDC in it, it will hijack your hormones and say mimic estrogen, but it doesn't send your body the right message that estrogen would usually send. So it affects biological processes. So maybe, one of them could mimic estrogen, and instead of creating breast cells, they create uterine fibroids, or they create breast cancer even. So that means, like, just because you're using it a little bit, it doesn't necessarily reduce its impact. But if you're using it every day, if you're using an EDC, then that increases the chance of it affecting your reproductive health. So EDCs can cause anything between developmental and reproductive toxicity, like I mentioned earlier puberty, higher rates of preterm birth, uterine fibroids, incidence of endometrial cancer, just poor ovarian cancer outcomes. So like your body is less equipped to address and fight cancer back, just because you're using endocrine disrupting chemicals. And then skin cancer as well is a factor in them. So I just wanted to give an example of endocrine disrupting chemical. If y'all don't know, there's this chemical, or actually a group of man-made chemicals, called pair and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're also known as PFAS, or forever chemicals. And they're called forever chemicals because it's very, very difficult for them to degrade in the environment and in our bodies. And this, like I said, is man-made. They started using them and making them in the 1940s, and there are already over 80,000 of them used today. And only 1% of them are tested by the FDA, and they're usually and almost exclusively tested in food and drugs, not in products. But they're in everything. Nonstick cookware, stain resistant products. If you look at anything that says it's waterproof, that's almost a direct link to PFAS. If it says waterproof, it has PFAS in it. And the problem is they can cause different gene mutations. They're in food packaging, pesticides, some shampoos, moisturizers, etc. And the problem is, with PFAS specifically, it increases the number of cells in your body. Like I said, it's a disrupting chemical. And for PFAS, those cells can travel to other parts of the body and activate tumor formation. So they're traveling through your body and sending the completely wrong messages. And how it disproportionately affects Black women. Black women actually have higher levels of a certain type of PFAS in their body. So PFBs lead to higher rates of cholesterol, and high rates of cholesterol lead to more aggressive forms of cancer. So literally, it's kind of a wraparound. It's kind of a lose-lose situation, because if you use products that have PFAS, it can increase one thing in your body, which sets off kind of this chain of events where you're less likely to be able to fight off certain diseases as well. So PFAS are also found in menstrual products, products that we know are marketed towards women, young women, girls, etc. And just for the numbers' sake, PFAS are resistant in the environment by they've looked at it in terms of numbers. So PFOs, type of PFAS, it has a half-life of 5 years, basically. So it takes 5 years to get half of that level out of your body, and then 3.5 years for another source of PFAS. And the problem is, even tiny amounts can have long term health effects. So we're not even talking about cosmetics right now, because we know that the EPA, the FDA can't regulate that. But if you look at the same exact chemical in water, you can see that there is functionally no safe limit of that. So for PFOs, the safe limit in drinking water is 0.02 parts per trillion. And for PFOAs, it's 0.004 parts per trillion. So that's the minimum safe level. Anything after that, it is going to be causing health effects. And that's for water. So an example of this and how it's problematic is when you put it into an industry that isn't regulated, like personal care products, you can find a whole lot more of those chemicals in them at way higher levels. So this was a study done by Mamavation, it's kind of like a blog group that was started by mothers who were concerned about their products that their children were using and the products that they were using. And they did a study with the Environmental Health News and found that about 48% of sanitary pads had PFAS. About 22% of tampons contain PFAS, all of them that were tested. And this is a new product that's on the market, 65% of period underwear contain PFAS. So when you think about the physical area that this is at, this is it's kind of the perfect conditions to be forming things like uterine fibroids, like different reproductive issues, because that constant contact is what makes these chemicals so dangerous. So they're on your bodies, you're exposed to them for a long amount of time relatively. So it's kind of inevitable that it's going to increase and accumulate in your body. So yeah, I just wanted to point out formaldehyde and hair relaxers as an example, as well as an endocrine disruptor. So hair relaxers, which we know are used to straighten curly hair, often contain formaldehyde, and the FDA is working on banning them because they've seen the health issues that are related to them. So on the right here, you can see a study from Boston University. They found that hair relaxers increase uterine cancer for Black women. And the problem is it's, again, in very close contact to you. So it can get into your body through scalp, through inhalation, and just through the ways that we use it on a daily basis. So another group that's very affected by this are, no surprise, salon workers. People who are dealing with these chemicals on a daily basis as their profession. They don't have to use it to be inhaling it, to be affected by it. And honestly, when it comes to health effects, hair workers and nail salon workers, they have really high occupational risk when it comes to breast cancer, reproductive issues, etc. Like that's one of the industries that have just a high rate of association between the products that they are using on their clients and the impact on their personal health. So yeah, and when it just relating it back to hair relaxers in general, when it comes to that, we're also not too equipped biologically to deal with it. So Black women have a 5-year survival rate of 62% when it comes to things like uterine cancer or endometrial cancer, compared to 84% for white women who are diagnosed here in the US. So even when we do get these things, like I said, our health is like very much impacted worse than other demographics. And this is towards the end of my presentation, y'all. I would love to answer any questions you guys have, but I did want to leave you with some resources you can find to learn more about the issue and just have more context as to how you can protect yourself, because it's not inevitable. We can make better choices as consumers. The best option is to have this industry regulated. But until then, as people who care about our health, as people who care about the health of our sisters, etc., these are some resources you can use to see really how to make change. So the first one is the non-toxic Black Beauty database, and this is coming from the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, and it's actually a database of products that they've tested. They update it every year, I believe, and they're sold by Black-owned companies, and they have been proven to not have these endocrine chemicals in them. So you can filter it out by price range, you can filter it out by product type, and just find something that we know is safe. Another resource is the Red List. This is actually also coming out of the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, and this is a list of do not use chemicals that are of greater concern to Black women. So, what their reasoning behind this was, a lot of the chemicals that are the most dangerous or tested for are necessarily used by Black women or like the Black woman population. So they've come up with chemicals, a list of chemicals that are usually in our products that we should just be completely stepping away from. Another thing is the Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep database. Now, this is really cool because you can look up, and I'm going to share my screen so we can do it together. You can look up product by its label, any product you want, continue the site. And what you do is you go to the Skin Deep program and say you want to look up hair relaxer. So you can put relaxer in here. Or, well, I know we have the Dark and Lovely
Mm-hmm.
hair relaxer or hair tamer. Let's just say that as a brand. And you can filter it from best to worst when it comes to products. And the most dangerous product, which has a high hazard rate of 10 out of 10, because they do have a scale, are the No Lie hair relaxers by Dark and Lovely. And these are some of the ingredient concerns. It can cause cancer, allergies, reproductive toxicities, and you really need to use this in moderation or use with caution because of all these issues. So they even have a score of all the products, all the ingredients that they use in it, and then this is just how they were able to interpret the data. So I use this a lot. Honestly, I prefer to use it in the store. So if I want to try something new, I'll just go to the Skin Deep program, say if it's like a new, lotion, if I wanted to use, or even we can try Method, just as an example, the one I was talking about before.
Yes.
So Method is generally good. These are not the things that I bought that I was scammed out of, but yeah, Method is generally good. If you see something Method at the store, you can match it to what the product safety is on the EWG Skin Deep program. So this is just overall good for specific products when you need to know in the moment and when you don't just need general information. Like, it's great to know that formaldehyde causes cancer, or to avoid things with formaldehyde. But when you're out and about in the store, you're not going to remember that off the top of your head. So this is a really good aid for that. So yeah, and just going back to that, there are a couple apps you can use as well. The Clearia app, where you can scan your product as you're in the store, and it'll tell you ingredients information, and if it is harmful, like alternatives you can use. They have links to Walmart, Target, Amazon, where you can get products that are generally safer to use. Another one is the Yuka app, and Yuka is good because that's for food and cosmetics. I think I put the definition twice, but Clearia is just for cosmetics. Yuka is for basically anything in the grocery store. And then we have the retailer report card, and this is more general. This ranks major retailers on their efforts to eliminate products. So it's not talking about the product specifically, but more so how many toxic products are at a specific store. And another thing is about, I guess, when it comes to advocacy, being organizers, we are really good at getting things done in terms of this issue. And I know that to be true because, like I said, there are very little regulations out there by law. But when we do consumer campaigns, for example, against Johnson and Johnson, we do really get results. So, Rite Aid, Target, CVS, etc., they actually have lists of do not sell products. So they refuse to put them on their shelves because people have spoken out about how toxic they are. So the retailer report card, it comes out every year, and it can tell you like how Amazon's doing, how Whole Foods is doing, just as a business that you should be supporting or avoiding. And then the next two, well, the last one is mine, so I'll go a little bit more into detail. But another thing is a study done by Black Women for Wellness. They focus on mothers' health, reproductive health, and then they gradually moved into beauty justice because they saw the correlation just with like the people they serve. They're
Mm-hmm.
based in LA, and they did a study of Black women's hair usage with Occidental College. So that's just really informative as like general information about like how we're using this, why we're using this. Because another thing is we can't pretend that like these products are used for no reason, right? They're oftentimes effective. So would you rather have a clean product that doesn't really work for you, or would you have this product that you know for sure works every single time? So there really needs to, the industry should be finding a balance and a way to protect people's health while also giving them products that they can use in a way that they still feel comfortable using them.
Right.
Um, and the last resource is the Tea on Toxic Beauty webpage. So we
Nice.
have been up and running since about November now, and you can visit our site cleanwater.org/tea on toxic beauty to learn about the resources we have. What I really want to emphasize is our beauty justice working group. Friends who are concerned about this like always being a problem, do not worry. There are folks working on it. New York, for example, like I said, has a Beauty Justice Act, and we're really trying to bring that type of legislation to New Jersey. So if you are interested in talking about these issues, learning more, learning how you can support your neighborhood, and even like your family on this, feel free to sign up. We are going to be having our first meeting in June. And yeah, so this is really about to help each other out about finding ideas about how to address this, how to talk to community members about this, because at the end of the day, it's not, an issue that should only be worked on by a major organization. It's an issue that affects all of us. It's an issue that affects our family members. So we really are looking towards how we can make this issue more personable and how we can all feel like advocates and like we have a stake in the issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the working group. And at the bottom, there are some blogs that you can read on it. Dark and Lovely. We have a petition going on against it. The product that I just shared with you guys, the No Lie Hair Relaxer. Dark and Lovely is actually owned by L'Oreal,
Okay.
even though L'Oreal does not really associate themselves with Dark and Lovely because they know the type of products that they're putting out there.
Oh, wow.
So we want them to take that off of their shelves, and you can send them a letter. It can be personalized. You can add anything to it. So yeah, this is another way you can stay involved and up to date on how to address the issue. Um,
So my last question
mhm,
speaks to the L'Oreal and Dark and Lovely
yes.
partnership.
Mhm,
So I see that the community have been instructed to take action and advocate to Dark and Lovely, which is owned by L'Oreal, to remove the lye from their hair products. How
mhm.
can we ensure that L'Oreal and Dr. Lovely act on this demand?
Yeah.
Like after
So
we see the petitions, how do we know?
yeah, so it really is about like garnering attention around the issue. Honestly, it takes a lot of pressure for them to actually change. So it's about like partnering with like groups like the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, Black Women for Wellness. They were actually really, really pivotal in getting Johnson and Johnson accountable. So I say that to say this is slow work, and there might not be an immediate response or immediate urgency from the company to work on this, but that's what like things like the coalition or the working group is for, because as we recruit more people around the issue, we have more influence. So people power sometimes, if it's enough, prevails over the power of this billion-dollar industry to just continue to do that. So with that, I would say the way you can stay most hopeful about an issue like this, or even about this specific issue, is sending this to your friends, getting the word out about it, and then trying to come to a table with people who want to care about the issue to figure out next steps. So I just put this up, and I would love if y'all could sign it so we can like see a list of people who actually care about it, and then we can work together to see exactly what we can do to change the industry. But unfortunately, it's slow work, like everything in environmental justice,
Mhm.
but it's work that gets done. As an organizer, my main job is to work with the environmental justice law here in New Jersey, and it's one of the most strong environmental laws in the country, which basically requires that facilities like incinerators, the stinky like darling fragrance place, that they actually are accountable towards the community and give an impact statement on how they affect the environment, hold a meeting where they have to answer the community and answer to the community's questions. And that was a long fight. And that included organizations like Southward Environmental Alliance, New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. And it took a while, but it was passed. And now we're kind of a model for how environmental laws should work. So it's something
Mm,
that kind of has to build up for accountability to be taken.
thank you.
Hmm.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you,
I
X, for all that you've shared with us this evening. Arlene, did you want to say something else?
Yes, I signed the petition as you were talking. I just signed it. Yes.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
You're
Awesome.
welcome.
So that's really all I had for y'all. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. Love engaging with community members. Please
Mhm.
feel free to contact me after this. So that QR code, you might want to discard it. It was like a post webinar survey, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, yeah, I would love to talk to anybody involved, anybody who has personal stories about this.
Yes,
Connecting with each other, it matters, honestly. We can't know it's a problem until we're in a space to all talk about it. So would love to.
absolutely.
Sure.
So you'll
Yeah.
hear back from me. I'll reach out to some people, probably some of those who listened in this evening, and
Okay.
see what their schedules are like, and we'll make that happen.
Okay.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Great.
That is
Thank
all I
you.
had.
Oh,
All right. Thank you, X, again for all of your great energy always, and sharing all the information that you have. I learned a lot. I learned a
yes,
lot, especially
yes,
seeing the numbers. It's like very jarring to see the
absolutely.
numbers.
It is. It is. And it can be scary. It's definitely, when
Mhm.
I saw it, it was overwhelming, but I really do believe in, if we band together, we can make change on this. That's the point of community organizing. Justice and policy, they go together because as community members, we care for each other and we lift each other up. And I love that you gave me the platform for this, because that's exactly how we make change.
Of
Absolutely.
course. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And thank
All right, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining the Beloved Community Check-in, and we will be back next week with a surprise. No, no surprise. We're actually gonna have Swiya. Swiya's gonna join us next week. We're going to have Regina. She's gonna join us and talk about her life around environmental justice and the work that she's doing um, at Swiya.
Yeah.
All right.
Regina's great.
Thank you all. She
thank
is. I love her. All right. Have a great night, everybody. And don't
good
forget
night.
to share and
Yeah.
like our pages. Please. Have a
Yeah.
great night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Bye, X.
Bye.
Bye, Erica.
Bye bye.